Okay, so one thing that I thought might be interesting to film was how to get to the fuse box in the front. So basically what you have to do is you have to remove the top cover of the fuse box. There's 6 screws holding it down. They're captive, so you only need to unscrew them a little bit. Once you've got that done, you can remove the cover. You might have to remove a few relays from the back when you go to pull the fuse box out. There's one screw in the front right in the middle that holds the actual fuse box down, and then once you have that screw off, you can simply lift it up. If one of the relays gets caught in the back, then you can just pull that one relay out and get the clearance that you need. So basically what I really want to cover here is how to get access to these little fuse blocks, because there's 3 of them and you can separate them out. So basically what you do is you just have to spread, like, let's say you want to get the first one out, you spread it open a little bit on the outer edge, and then with the screwdriver you just pop it out, and it's just clipped in so it falls right out, and then you have access to the individual fuses. Now adding a circuit is pretty easy. On the back here you have these red tabs, so on the circuit that you want to add, you pull the red tab out and you just squeeze your wiring back in, and then you can push the red tab back in. So what I'm gonna add now is I'm gonna add the seat heater circuit. So I'm gonna look up on my little diagram here, and can't see it because it's overexposed, but number 25 is the seat heater, and that's already pre-wired. It's got a little bus bar in here that gives it always an always hot plus 12 volts. So I'm going to pop it into number 25, and you can actually add multiple circuits on each fuse. Essentially, one fuse can fuse 1, 2, 3, I think 4 separate circuits. So you'll see a couple of things are coming out of the same fuse. So that's nice. You can actually add circuits directly to the fuse box. You don't have to cut and splice into wires or whatever. So you just take that, and I'm going to go ahead and insert it into the first slot. Actually, you can only add 3 circuits per block. So that clicked in. That's great. So now I plugged in the actual supply for the heated seats. Now I have to plug in the supply for the control module, and that's going to go into the same circuit as the control for the radio, which is circuit 21. So 21, radio, telephone, control unit, seat heater. So I'm going to slide that in. I simply add it to number 21, but 1 slot up. So slide it in. And I think I slid that in the wrong way because it came out too easily. So I'm going to slide it in the other way. Okay, so you'll know you have the orientation correct because it goes in too easy if you have it flipped the wrong way around. So one goes in here, and one goes in here. Whoop, almost dropped that. One goes in here. And also the red tabs only go in one way too. And there you go. Now I need to reassemble the fuse box. So we start with I'll start with the heated seats. Just a quick overview because you've already seen me install it into the front fuse box. But heated seats, it's this cable here. So that's the heated seat harness. That goes here. Up here, then back along the tray, pops up over here. Of course, the power wire goes up into the harness, which is... come on. This one, it goes into the control module. I'm using the modern style. There's two types. There's the one with the separate switches and a separate control module located somewhere. I don't know where it's located, but I'm using the modern version, which has the switches and the control module built into one unit. So just 4 wires on this one. So yeah, that's for the power supply on this side, but it actually grounds over on the driver's side. So you have a long ground cable which goes up there and back around and grounds in that little point right there, just below the carpet. Can't see it because the carpet's covering it. So So driver's side, similar story. Of course, it grounds directly right over there, but then otherwise comes back up here. Power goes through there, up behind the dashboard and into the fuse box. You've seen me install those two wires. You have the supply for the control unit, and you also have the actual electricity supply for the heating elements. Those are two separate circuits. Okay, so now the power seats, the electric adjustments, what you might call them. So you have the big thick cable over here coming out, same thing on the other side. This will go up into the doors. So I've got this one protruding right here, ready to be installed. Same deal on the other side, I got all the wiring there. Now, so the driver's side grounds over there in the same spot as the heated seats do. The passenger side is supposed to ground right down there below the carpet. Unfortunately, mine was rusted solid. Since nothing was broken, I didn't want to touch that connection from fear of screwing it up even worse. But there is enough wiring to pick an alternative ground, so to speak. That ground is just, I don't know if it's visible. Okay, well, this cross member here for the dashboard has a grounding wire that goes back to the chassis. That's where I grounded the seats instead, because obviously that was all clean. Now, the power wires, what actually supplies the switches, because the switches essentially just distribute the power to the seats. The seats don't even have their own ground connection. If you look here at the wirings, there is no brown wire. We've got orange and we've got a bunch of other colors, but the seats don't actually do their own grounding. The switches actually take care of that. The switches distribute the power and the grounds to where it needs to go. So that's why there was actually enough ground wire to go back and plug in over there. So it's actually a shorter run than what was originally intended by grounding down here. Anyway, the power supply wires, which go up to the switches, for the driver's side comes up and it actually crosses over here. I mean, if you're doing this a custom install and you don't want to remove the dashboard and you just want to deal with removing the sides here, there's no reason why you couldn't cross it over in the trunk. But I guess I'm just running the factory wiring. So the power crosses over from this side right under here, underneath the carpet, and it goes back. The supply for here just comes out over here from the door switches and goes back. So now we're going to go into the trunk and I'll show you what's going on back there. So now we're here in the trunk and I'm going to show you exactly what's going on over here. I've removed all the stuff because I want to add some CLD tiles to the inside. I'll do a little test actually, because this part here vibrates like crazy. Like, just have a listen to this. So that's obviously quite loose. It's just a thin slab of sheet metal. So I want to add some CLD tiles there and hopefully quieten it down and maybe get some better response out of my subwoofers. I don't know. I just want it to be quiet. That's really it. So yeah, fuse box. So basically, the block we're looking at, actually, I just removed it there. It's that one. I just popped it out already. But the neat thing is, all W202s are pre-wired at least up to this point. So this circuit is ready. The logical circuit to control when to send power to the electric motors of the seats, that's already pre-installed. It's actually controlled here by the chassis control module. I forget what the hell this thing's called. The convenience control module, that's what this thing is called. So that sends power to this relay here, the second relay. Actually, let me fact check myself if it's the second relay or the first one. Yeah, I'll fucking know. One of these two relays controls the seats, the other one controls power to the windows. So it's one of those two relays, and this essentially sends power to this fuse block right here. So all I have to do is I gotta take my pins here and just like I did it in the front fuse box, pop these in. So green and yellow, well, green white and yellow white, that's the driver's side, and then this one here is passenger side. So blue white and black white. These are both power supply wires. Because, you know, why would you spec one big wire if you could just spec two smaller ones to get the current carrying capabilities that you need? Fuse designation, I might have to turn the brightness down here, a couple of notches. Fuse designation, let's check this out. So right here, that's where it's saying seat adjustment, left, left, right, right. So 1011 is driver's side, 1213 is passenger side. So here we have a shot of the final installation. Don't mind the extra fuses that I added over there, which are also numbered 10 through 13. And, I just got one of those blocks from a junkyard for about $2, and I figured I might as well put it in there just in case one day I need more fuses back here. But anyway, here's the 4 fuses which control the seats. So that's wired up. You got the wiring coming from underneath, and it just comes up through here and, goes up to the, not that, there you go, right there, zip tied together. So, just a quick test of the Dynamat. So, a huge improvement, at least from my ears. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up as well as I will hope. But let's give it a shot. Essentially, it's much less boomy, right? It's more dull now. But yeah, that's the point of these things, to stop vibrations and not to have as much resonance in the sheet metal. Okay, so part of what you have to do to get the seats in is, of course, figure out your door card business and get the switches in. Some people who do this might opt to just get like a different door card, but frankly I like this style. I like the simpler style of the C220's door cards over the one on the C280, which had the extra sort of leather pouch thing going on over here. However, you still need obviously the switches and the trim piece that goes around them, because the trim piece has to start a little bit further to cover the switches. So the switches I actually bought from eBay. They were silver colored or like beige colored, so I just repainted them black. You can quite easily dismantle these switches and repaint the faceplate black. So I used the same black as the paint color in the car, and turns out it matches the door card pretty much identically. So another thing that you'll need is around the back. Let me just spin this around. So around the back of the thing, you'll also need the, let's get the focus done over here. There you go. So you also need this sort of black piece that goes around it. That's what the switches rest on. So this, I just used some great goop to glue it on. You want it to be as solid as possible. You don't want it to like easily pop out. And you can see there on the bottom, the switches, that's what they rest on. So one other modification that I'll do, just to get it to work a little bit better, is to shave off the I want to shave off the excess plastic that ends up just all around this thing here. I found that I already did it on the driver's side, and it helped the wiring fit into place, because if you don't get the routing of the wiring perfect, which is pretty hard to do actually, because there's a lot of wires back there, they can get pinched on the edge, and it's hard to put the door card back on. But if you shave this off, then it's a lot easier, because the wires simply have more room to sort of find their way around. Of course, you do have to cut your door card. You can just do that with a utility knife. It's actually pretty easy. And the nice thing is you can use the black support that goes around the switches. You can use that to actually help with a template how to cut the door card out, because it actually lines up on those 2 bottom pegs over there, and then around the top it sort of has to be parallel with the top of the door card. Oh, and actually, one modification which I did do is this styrofoam piece over here. My car did not originally have that. It just had one going around the top, but it didn't have all that extra padding here. I just decided to add that because I figured it might help block out some more noise. I did shave the tops of the styrofoam piece, because once again, if you don't get the alignment perfectly right, it's not going to fit into cutouts in the door's sheet metal. So yeah, basically just took a utility knife and just shaved the peaks off, so it fits nicely, even though it's not perfectly aligned. And I hope it just helps block out some of the noise. And finally, here's the result. As you can see, the creases that I had initially are totally gone, and I have not done anything special apart from treating the seats with leather conditioner. So it turned out quite nicely. Here's the other one over there. Might just be able to make out the switches in the back. I had to add a little screw on the back right there because that switch kept popping out. And finally, the switches on the dashboard. They're quite nice. That one, the middle one there, doesn't do anything yet. They're a little bit dusty. I'm gonna have to clean them. But that middle one doesn't do anything yet, but I might find a clever use for it sometime soon. So there's gonna be another video in this series because the seats aren't quite perfect yet. Two little problems. The backrest on the passenger side doesn't work. It jams on something. I already opened up the seat back and tried to look what was happening, but unfortunately didn't see any obvious problem. And finally, the seat backs, they're missing the leather pouch that I used to have on my old ones. Unfortunately, you can't replace the seat backs themselves because they're a different part number and they don't quite fit. But I'm gonna find a way of making it work and getting my seat backs with the leather pouch. So a couple more shots. The backrests are really nice. The seat cushions in good shape. A couple of ass prints, but nothing that's too bad. And overall, a super great job.